that. Give me that. Give me that. Announcements. Cool. And I already have Canvas open. And publish. How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Yes, thank you for that. Annoying noise. Go away, go away. Go to there, go to there, and... Come on. Trying to load feedback routes, it takes as long for me as it does for you, or possibly longer. Sweet. Yeah, I know, Joshua. I always try and remember to turn my emails off because if I don't and you guys all hear the email noise, I don't know if it's muscle memory for all of you yet or post-traumatic stress disorder like it is for me. But every time you hear that email ping, it's that little bit of ugh. Overall thoughts on test week? It was good. Test week was good. I was very happy with it. It ran as smoothly as test week ever does, which I was really happy with. People did really well. Overall, pitches were really good. I think the pitching was better this year than it probably has been before. So I think doing that bit of pitch review in the stream, I think made a big difference, even though it wasn't that much. A lot of the common mistakes people make in pitches, we didn't see anywhere near as much of. It was obviously still there, but a lot of people did a much better job of their pitching this year, so I was really, really happy with that. How are you guys feeling being most of the way through a week off? At least a less stressful week. What's the name for the project for software? A6 asks for the name of the project. Doesn't A6 tell you to go to Discord and write down whatever it says under the project heading? I tried to be super duper clear about this. Your project name is found on Discord under the project section. Go there, write down whatever it says. And you will be fine from there. What screen do I want? I want that up, and I want that up. There. Stressing about A6? Yeah, you'll be fine. It's it's not. It is hard. It's a lot of work. But if you've worked hard all semester, you're going to do fine in A6. Just write down the things that you did in the way that I tell you to write them down, and you'll be okay. It may not be a work of art, but you'll be okay. banging a bottle of wine in a boot for the last lecture. Please, please have as many celebratory cold beverages as you would like. When's the report due? We're going to cover that. I've been over that in every single stream for the past month. I've been over that. It's in all of the last 4 live streams, but I'll go over it again. Do subheadings have to start on a new page? Nah. I've heard people in Discord saying A6 doesn't submit on Canvas until Monday. Yep, we'll go over it again for the 5th time. Working through A6, I feel like I'm using a lot of my Assessment 2 report for the first few parts, and then reviewing and expanding where applicable. Is that okay? That's exactly the point, Riley. So that's what I wanted you to do. If you did a good job of your Assessment 2, and some of you didn't, and you're just best off to put it in the bin and start again. But the goal here, one of the ways I say basically, if you've been working hard all semester, A6 shouldn't be that bad, because you should have a lot to talk about, but also you should be able to recycle a whole heap of your Assessment 2. The thing that I'll say to be very careful with, though, is make sure you give it a reread and check that it's actually applicable in this new situation. One of the ones we reviewed on Monday, they'd reused a lot of it, and you could clearly see that they'd shifted in direction since then, and a whole bunch of what they were talking about just wasn't relevant at the end. So can you reuse it? Yes. And I would highly encourage you to, if it's useful, just go back through it and make sure it's kind of pointing where you want it to be. So exactly what you've said, reviewing and expanding where applicable is perfect. A6 has currently been pretty fun. Hey, I'm glad you haven't hated it. I find that writing, if you've got something that you genuinely, invested time and effort into doing the project, writing about it isn't too bad. Having to write about something just to write it, to do writing, I find awful. But if I've done something that I don't want to necessarily say proud of, but I've invested myself in, whether it worked or not is kind of my point. It's generally pretty easy to do a good job of the writing. Wish I was drinking a dark and stormy. It's good weather for a dark and stormy. Will you or the tutors be marking any assignments, or is it marks just based off the peer marking? Same as last time, it'll be moderated peer marking. So I'll be having a look at a bunch of them. And I know a bunch of the tutors will as well. If I only have one table, does it still need a section in the list of tables? Yeah, it does, and it should be on its own page. We're going to talk about that in a second. I've got this question a bunch. It sucks. It looks super weird. I know. Put it on its own page. It's free. It's not like you're printing this out, right? Just put it on its own page, because if you don't, I know it looks weird, and I would accept it personally if you only had one or two and you could fit it on the same page as your list of tables, your list of tables on the same page as your list of figures. I would probably just let it go. But I'm not your only marker, so play it safe and just put it on its own page, because then you can't be wrong. Go the Maroons. Go the Maroons. I'm a Queenslander, by the way. What's the minimum amount of pages for assessment 6? Yes, Bailey is correct. There is no minimum. If you can do it in under 20 pages, power to you. But that sounds hard to me. Most people actually find they end up with the opposite problem. They're hitting the page limit, not trying to scrape over a minimum. Yeah, I guess technically one page. Well, no, I mean, technically you need one page for the title page, abstract, table of contents, list of figures, introduction, design, evaluation, conclusion, references. I guess technically 9. I mean, you're gonna fail miserably, but you know. If we're using calculations from a team member and acknowledging them, good. Should we try and change it so it's not identical? No, no, no. That's the point of acknowledging them. You don't have to. It might get flagged because it is exactly identical, at which point I would go immediately to said to your acknowledgement section, and if it's nice and clear in there, and possibly even you should put it in your acknowledgement section, and if you just put all those equations in like your background somewhere, maybe a sentence in there as well, acknowledging team member 2 or whoever it was who did it, so it's really, really clear that you're saying, I'm not claiming any credit for this. If you do take them and change them a little bit, because maybe you wanted a slightly different variation of this, you can still do that same acknowledgement, and you just say modified from the work of team member 2 or whatever in that case. Should we be trying to get to the max page count as much as possible? No, you shouldn't. You absolutely shouldn't. It probably will end up happening just inherently, but it might not, because of if you do a really kick-ass job of the background section and you write really concisely and you use figures very intelligently, you may well be able to come in quite a long way under. You may also be a project that doesn't need one of the particular sections to be as long as some of the others. So I know that there are some who are going to need a fairly bulky evaluation section because their test data has to come through visually, for example, so they're going to have heaps of figures. You may not be a project like that. So it depends, basically. Sorry, I can't give you a more specific answer, but I try and set page limits not in a way of saying this is correct, just I want to stop you waffling, so we're not going to let it be any more than this. Is it possible for first years to do vacation programs to the required amount of work experience if needed? It's possible, yes. It's generally not considered the greatest because you get all your work experience when you're a first year when, let's be honest, you're not good for much more than sweeping the floor and making coffee. So it's best if you can get it staggered throughout your degree, where you do a couple weeks at the end of first year, a couple weeks at the end of second year, maybe heaps at the end of third year, like finish it off. That's probably the ideal, but take it when you can get it. There's nothing that means you can't go and do more work experience after your first year. How am I doing for? Oh, it's more than 7 past. So I'm going to go through the start here, and we're going to get into assessment 6 questions in a second. I understand there's some in the chat that I haven't gotten to. But I'm going to go through some of the FAQs and stuff that I want to, and then I'll throw it back to open questions. Hey Alex, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I know, I'm fully converted, man. Yes, Alex, in response to your message, I can do 8 on Tuesday, or we could do it between 11 and 2 if that works for you. But I'm flexible. I've deliberately not booked anything else in on Tuesday. All right, sorry everybody. I'd meant to message Alex before this. All right, what we're going to do today, is what I should be talking about, is I'm going to hit some known questions, some stuff I've picked up in the Discord, some stuff I'm sick of answering 17 times, so I'm going to answer it a final time here, and then I'm just going to say it's at this timestamp. Go watch the live stream. And then I'll answer your other questions that you have in the chat, as we were just doing at the start. And then we're going to review a submission as we have been doing in these streams. Then I'll go back to open question and answer. Then we'll do another review. Then we'll do open question and answer. What I want to try and do this time is just structure this just a little bit more. So when we're reviewing something, I want the chat to be focused on reviewing that. And you can ask questions about it, but only about the paper we're reviewing at the time. And then we'll go back into open Q&A. I know I tend to go down the rabbit holes, and I'm going to see if this is a more efficient way of doing it. Cool. Oh, also, just as an aside, I don't really care either way, but you don't need to at me in the A6 questions channel. Whenever I get time, I go and sit back down in front of I open up that Discord channel and I just answer all the questions from top to bottom, whether you've added me or not. So it doesn't matter. It's fine either way. Um, yeah, and I don't know. It's going to depend on how busy that channel gets come, Saturday and Sunday, Monday. I'm gonna do my best to help as much as I can, but I'm just probably gonna give myself an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening each time, and probably that's it. And if I'm running out of time to answer your questions, I'm gonna stop answering questions I've answered before. So before you ask a question in there, obviously check the live streams. I know that's redundant information to all of you right now because you're here. And maybe have a quick scroll up and down in the chat and see if it's already been asked. You can search the chat, so cool. All right, some of the things that we know, and I'll talk about again. The due date. The due date is officially 23:59 on Friday because I am not allowed to set a due date beyond that point. That's university policy, and it's incredibly clear that I'm not allowed to set a due date after that. So that's the official due date. That being said, you are all entitled to a 3-day extension that I am giving you all as of right now. So you all have an extension, meaning you can all hand it in at the end of that 3-day extension, Monday 23:59. Okay? So that wording needs to be done in that very specific way. That's why it's that way. Bear in mind, there are no extensions on extensions for any reason. Okay? So you've got your 3 days. It's not due Friday, it's due Monday. Well, it's due Friday, you have to hand it in on Monday. No extensions beyond that point for any reason. I strongly suggest everybody has a submission in the portal by Friday, even if it's just a draft, just to make sure you can say I uploaded something. All right, check that it all works. Cool, cool, cool. I think that's everything I wanted to say about that. If you have any more due date questions, ask them now or forever hold your peace. My canvas is saying Tuesday 1:59 A6 and 7. Really? That's strange. I have it open and mine doesn't say that. It says Friday, June 7th, 23:59. Your canvas must be set to the wrong time zone, is my guess at that stage. Does the feedback assignment open Friday or Monday? It's going to have to open on Monday, unfortunately, because that's just how it works. Okay, so it's going to have to open on Monday, and you're going to only probably get 11 days to do that assignment instead of 14. Sorry, I had to rob one of these assignments, and I figured most of you would happily have an extra 3 days on the hand the report in bit and 3 less days on the do the revisions bit. Sweet. No more questions on due dates. Good. Equation numbers. I went through on the Monday. Yeah, everything should say the deadline is tomorrow. How complete do you want the submission by Friday? Just wherever you're up to on Friday. Yes, you can absolutely still make changes. Sweet, sweet. Cool. All right. Equation numbers. We did this in the Monday stream. I'll show you again in this stream when we open up a document. Just whenever you see an equation, let me know, and I'll show you how to do that live. Actually, I have a report so that I can show you some of these things. Let's just pick a random report. Let's hope that this has got some equations in it. Show me an equation. There's an equation. Okay, this person's actually already done the hack, but I'll show you how you do this, how you get an equation in the middle and an equation number on the right. Equations are to be centered, so they should be centered. I mean, justified or centered does the same thing, but equations need to be centered in the page, and in line with them, you need an equation number, which needs to be right aligned. Now, normally, it's uncommon to do what this particular person has done, where they've written equation number and then kind of a name for it. That's normally not done. I actually think this person's done a really nice job of that throughout their entire report, so I don't hate it. But what's far, far, far more common is just to see something like this. EQ1, sometimes just E1 to the side. Now, how do you get something centered and something right aligned in the same spot? You do this hack. You insert a table that is 3 cells wide and just 1 row deep. You take your equation, you put it in the middle one, you make sure that that middle one is centered, and you take your equation 1, however you want to do this formatting, and you right align it. Now you can also come in if you want to make this look a little bit nicer and come to this. This will align to the right in the kind of horizontal direction and align in the center vertically. To make it even slightly nicer again, what you actually do is check that these are both 0. If these are not both 0, this alignment does something a little bit weird and it pushes it up and doesn't actually center it. This is like super duper pedantic. You don't have to stress about this. Okay. So the point is, the way you get something centered and the way you get something right aligned is you put them in a table and you can format the cells individually. Then you just come up to table design, go to borders and go no border, and the whole thing disappears. And you're golden from there. Okay? So that's really helpful to know. It's really fast because if you need to do this again, you can just copy the whole thing and paste it again. Oh, it didn't. Copy the whole thing and paste it and keep your formatting. Yeah, keep original formatting. And then it gives you the table and everything's aligned correctly and you can just make, equation 2 super easily, however it is that you want to make equation 2, if you want to put in a drag calculation, whatever. Okay. The other one that comes up a lot, this person has an enormous appendix, is this. So you'll often find with your references that the left-hand column formats and looks super stupid. That's because, I can turn these off. Yours will probably look like that. That's because this is actually also a table with hidden lines. You grab it, you got to grab that hidden line, it's a little bit hard to find, and just drag it over to the side. And then it will just make these reformat nicely for you. If you've got more than 10 references, you'll have to drag it a little bit further to the side so that it formats nicely. But that's a one that I always get a bunch of questions on. Spacing. Okay. I've gotten a bunch of questions around what spacing do my headings have, or can I single space my references, or whatever. All of that is told to you. It's all in this one particular dot point that is in the brief. Now, I fully acknowledge there's a lot of dot points in the brief, and some of them have a lot of little bits and pieces to them. So there's that one around spacing. Yes, you can single space your headings, your captions, dot points, references, text in figures, text in tables. All of that can be single spaced if you would like. It's an optional choice to you, and you can take it or leave it. You can single space your figures, but not your headings if you want. That's fine. The trick that I would give you here is make liberal use of Control F, the find feature. If you've got a question about spacing, open up the A6 document and just Control F spacing and just look to see if it comes up, or space or something like that, because you'd find this pretty quickly if you did that. So these types of documents, these types of briefs that you have are quite common when you publish in journals and stuff like that. And often they're not 2 pages of formatting rules long, they're like 20 pages of formatting rules long. So I do this all the time in my professional career. I'm like, I got a question about spacing. Control F and just sort of search through until you can find it. It's a really helpful trick. This one we've spoken about a little bit already, but your list of tables gets a new page, all right? Just give it a new page. What am I doing here? I think I'm doing this. I am. Okay. So table of contents, which is fine. This is good. list of figures. Now, this person has a million figures, so their figures list of figures goes over 3 pages, and then they've gone and banged their list of tables in here. Don't do this, all right? Just give it, insert a page break, give it its own page, and even for a list of equations, just give it its own page, all right? You don't need a list of equations, by the way. It's not mandatory, but it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Even if this list of tables had only one single table on it, I don't care. Give it its own page. It looks dumb. I know it looks dumb, but you're being marked by at least 5 different people. And so you're going to get 5 different opinions on what the correct way to do this is. And although this looks dumb, it is technically correct. So do that because it's the safest thing for you to do in this case. Okay? And that's what you should be doing here, being as safe as possible. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Let's smash through these questions. Does table of contents and list of figures go after abstract? That is the most correct way to do it. It should go title page, abstract, table of contents. I don't care. And I'm telling you all, when you're marking this, don't worry. As long as it comes before the introduction, that's the only thing I care about. Yeah. Also, do we need calculation and in which sections? Depends on your project. Software may not have any. The aero one that we just looked at had a bunch, and I would expect it to. The decel one will have a bunch. The mechanical one will have a bunch. The robot one maybe does, maybe doesn't. It depends whether they use them or not. Can we have a look at the marking criteria? That's coming. I've got a reminder to do that in a second. My team's project included staff and wages. Is it okay that the running cost is light? Yeah, it should be. If you're going to include wages, your thing's going to be out of this world high, but just make sure you've got a very clear breakdown of where all those costs come from. You struggle to write a lot. How can I compensate? You should write on more than one day. So write as much as you can one day and then sleep on it and then come back and look at it again and go, if I wasn't doing this project, would I have any idea what this person is talking about? And you'll find that there's a whole heap of extra stuff you need to explain. How does shipping, wages, distribution costs work within the scope of the project? So it depends on your project. You don't have to include a bunch of this if you don't have these numbers available to you. But it's why when we talked about costs, maybe I should have put costs in here as a thing. This is it's in the A6 FAQs channel. I don't know why people are asking me questions in the Discord right now. I'm absolutely not going to be looking at that. It's in here. So when you talk about costs, talk about these 3 costs. We've been over this a bunch of times, but that's okay. So what did it cost you to make this one, including all the prototyping things? What would it cost Dylan to make one tomorrow from scratch? That's the super duper important cost. That's where you include every screw, everything. And if you buy screws in a pack of 100, then you buy them in a pack of 100, and so do I. So I have to buy the whole pack. Okay? Then you talk about mass production costs. You talk about your ability to be more efficient with the way in which you buy screws and whatnot. But be really, really careful when you do that, because yes, buying a large sheet of ply may be cheaper than buying the smaller pieces that you do, but now I have to pay for it to be shipped or cut to size, or the salary of somebody who does my receiving and exporting and whatever. And all of these things are costs you don't know how to wrap your head around very well. They're very hard things to quantify. So this is why with your mass production costs, I want you to be able to talk about these things rather than put hard numbers to them. I've got numbered subheadings, but I've reached 5.9 and still have another to add. How should I go about this? That's fine. You can have 5.10. That's fine. There's no problems with that. You can have up to 100 subheadings. That's not a problem at all. Perhaps there is a maximum amount of UML diagrams that you can put in the report. Yeah, I mean, you just have to be communicating to your target audience as well as possible, right? Feedback assignment opens on Monday, Chloe. So if everything is working right, mine should say deadline of tomorrow. Yes, they all should say deadline of tomorrow. How complete do you want this submission by Friday? Oh, we did that. I noticed that you mentioned to have no vertical line in tables. Why is that, and is it strict? Yes, it's covered in the report writing. The week I think it was week 5 for you, the report writing video. It's just bad practice. They should just never be there. If you're putting vertical lines in your table, you're basically doing it wrong. There is actually, I will pull this up because I think somebody's done a decent job of it here. I don't know why you took a photograph of your screen, whoever you were, but like this is a table with no vertical lines and it very clearly doesn't need them. So this is completely fine way to format a table. The question was how do I want them formatted like this? I mean, format them however the fuck you like, as long as they have no vertical lines and they're easy for the reader to understand. That's perfectly acceptable. I have no problems with that at all. Must we include equation numbers? Yes, you must. If I'm referencing an equation I used in a figure, a graph in my case, do I also need to show the equation the way you have in the center of the screen? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Don't have an equation appear in a figure. Have it appear as an equation. Do all equations need to be numbered? Yes, all equations need to be numbered. Do we mention diffuse energy in the MEC A6? Yeah, absolutely. Like in your description of your client, I was representing diffuse energy that whole time. How do we get an extension? Still kind of confused. You don't have to do anything. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. You're good, man. You're good, Grib. In my tables for the equation, it keeps making them bold even after I change it. Yeah, don't stress about that. So your equations will probably end up bold and they'll probably end up in the Calibri Maths font. That's okay. It's fine. That's acceptable. I'm pretty sure I actually even put that in the A6 brief. Should we have our student number in the header? You don't need to. Uh, you don't need to. It doesn't really serve any huge purpose. That particular report that I had up before, I think, did that. I'm guessing that's where the question is coming from. Was it this one that they put their student name? Yeah, they put their student number in the header. It's fine. It's a very common thing to do. Mine was in my PhD thesis. I think I put my student number in the header, but you don't need it there. So can my headings and subheadings be 2 if I wanted? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Does justified text required for the reference list? No, it's not. I have 7 pages for my introduction. Should I be worried? Yeah, probably. I mean, your assessment 2 report was more than that, and you should have more than you had in assessment 2. Does the reference list go before or after the appendix? Before. You should be able to take your appendices, rip them off the back of a printed version of your report, and it still perfectly function. In fact, one of the reasons we say this is because that's actually really common for appendices, and I'll show you why. This is turning into a great little example report for me. So this person has got their whole report here. They go through it, they do all their background, all their designs, all their early prototypes, how you would manufacture their final product, which is really cool. They evaluate it. All of this is nice. How they went on test day, which is cool. Their conclusion, their references, and then their appendix. And this appendix is a construction guide. So they take you through step by step how you actually make it, which is sweet. This is one of their major selling points of this particular design, was that it could be made by somebody in less than 4 hours really simply, and they had all of the stuff to go with it. So they made a construction guide and they supply it. If I wanted to go and make one of these, what I would do, if I had a printed version of this, or I would print this out, right? So it's actually not that uncommon to literally have ripped out an appendix from a report and you take it to a workshop or something with you as you build something. So that's one of the reasons they go right at the end. This absolutely should have, by the way, I just noticed, there should be a page break in here. The new appendix should be treated like it's a new major heading and should start on a new page as a result. And if there is an appendix C, which I don't know if there is, no, it doesn't look like it. Cool. What is a list of listings? Listings are a way of including pseudocode in your report. If you want to include the pseudocode, you should have it done. It's not a figure, it's not a table, it's not an equation, it's a listing. And thus, you would have a list of listings, like you would have a list of figures and a list of equations. Should we reference performance criteria in our design, but put it in introduction? What do you mean reference? That doesn't make sense. You don't mean refer, you just mean talk about it. You might want to talk about your performance criteria in several places. That's why it's mentioned so many times in the brief, in different places, because it might make sense for you to build your performance criteria as a function of the background information, and then it would be in the introduction bit. You might only bring it in as you talk about your design. Through our week 5 brainstorming, we came up with this performance criteria, or you might, and you should definitely be talking about it in your evaluation. Is the robot still doing costings differently? Yeah, absolutely. That is actually the other part that is on this slide that I should have spoken about and I didn't. Not really applicable to the robot project. I don't need you to talk about every wire, every whatever in the robot projects because they're meaningless numbers, right? It makes no sense to actually talk about those things. I want you to discuss value. We used more sensors or less sensors and that was worth it. It wasn't worth it. But you don't need to sit there and say, you know, we use exactly this many jumper wires. It doesn't matter. It's not a scalable price for you. We're going to have a live stream next week for reviewing. Probably not. I don't think that's required. And I don't think I can realistically do that in a way that I don't compromise the review process. So probably not. So this will probably be the last ENGG1500 thing ever. What if somebody from a different project marks down someone from the robot due to not providing specific costs? If you're worried about that, then you can put the sentence in there as requested by Dr. Dylan Kelly. A numerical price breakdown has not been provided. An indicative price discussion is provided in its place. Can we make a graph or table in Google Sheets and screenshot? No. God, no. Never screenshot in anything. Like, don't do that. Just export it as an image. Export it as an image. You can do that in Excel, and you absolutely should be able to do that in Google Sheets as well. Just export it as an image. But also just look up a YouTube video, man. It's really, really easy. I'm going to go over the marking criteria in a minute. Does code need to be numbered? You shouldn't have code in your report at all. Do I need to do a list of equations if I only have one equation? Yep. Okay. Cool. Good. Got to the bottom of the chat. Couple of other tips and tricks of things that have come up. So automatic versus manual. In some cases, you're going to have, and you should always try and do this, put in things like a table of contents here that gets updated automatically, right? You use your styles to produce headings of the correct way. You put those into your report, and then you can automatically put in a table of contents, which will automatically update and give you all the correct page numbers and all those types of things. Same thing goes for your list of figures. Same thing goes for a whole bunch of other stuff that Word will do automatically for you, up to and including references, for example. This is great. This is wonderful. This is absolutely how you should do it. It saves heaps of time and it stops you making heaps of mistakes. But every now and then, Microsoft decides, fuck you, we're just going to stop working. Doesn't work anymore. It does the wrong thing. It adds something incorrectly. Now, realistically, this is because you made a mistake somewhere, but that's fine. It happens. You have two choices at this point. You can fight it And the best way to fight it most of the time, if it is something like, oh, it's not picking up my figures correctly or something like that, is to delete them and put them back in again. And when you delete them, don't just hit delete here. Grab every single thing from there to there and delete all of it together and then put all of it back in. Because the most common way for something to get broken is that you end up like deleting the caption and then reinserting the caption again, and it counts that figure twice, and it will then like put that figure into your report twice because you captioned it twice. So you told it, I want this thing there twice. You can't see both captions, so you're super fucking confused about it. But this type of stuff happens all the time. So what you do is you delete it all, you kill it, and then you start again and you put it back in, and that will fix it the majority of the time. The same thing happens when you get cross references. Now, this person doesn't appear to have cross referenced their figures, but where you have something that says, as shown in figure 35, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes that breaks in a way that people don't expect. The easiest way to find whether you've broken that is to actually export this as a PDF. And this works for a whole bunch of things, actually, to see whether Microsoft is working for you or it's going to break. Export it as a PDF and check the PDF formats the way you want it to. So, did this break my table of contents? Are all of my things that are supposed to be automatic working the way that I want them to? And this one seems to have held together really nicely, so well done to this author who attached everything correctly. But every now and then you'll get, I'm just seeing if I can find one in here. Let's try this trick. No, they didn't get any. Every now and then you'll get it to say error, exclamation mark, reference not found. That's fine. You find that area, that sentence, delete the whole thing, and retype it back out, and it will fix that problem. If all of that goes to hell and you can't fix it, just abandon the automatic system. Just get a table of contents, copy the whole thing. I mean, this thing goes on for forever, but that's okay. Yep, still going. Copy the whole thing. Just paste it in as plain text. And okay, you're going to have to come and manually reformat a whole shitload of this, but okay, that's fine. You can just brute force it, and then it will never screw up again. It is an option, okay? It's not a great one to take, but if it's, and I've done it for its reference lists that I do this for most often. Word sometimes just freaks out around reference lists, and you just can't fix it no matter how many times you beat your head against that wall. So I'll just paste them back in, and I'll manually go and change everything, and then I know it can't screw up anymore. So that is always an option for you. Same thing goes with giving a numbered list to your headings. Sometimes they screw up. If it's an hour before it's due and you can't fix a problem like this, just bite the bullet and do it manually, okay? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it will work. It'll be a really boring 30, 60 minutes of your life, but it will 100% work. So do that. Okay, assessment 7. If we have 3 to 4 lines of calculation in a block, should each new line get its own equation number? Probably not. I wouldn't number all of the maths, but it depends on what you're doing. If you're just sort of like subbing in numbers, I wouldn't bother. But if you're like performing big actions to it, then maybe. Let's have a look at assessment 7. I can drag that over. All right, so this is the back end of the submission portal that you see. I have to show you the back end because obviously it's not live for you to see the front end yet. Assessment 7 is the peer review of your final reports, as you probably have worked out already. It's due then. We spoke about that. That obviously you will be able to submit up until Monday. You will get the same automatic feedback you got last time. I'll tell you this again now. It's going to tell most of you that you've got an overly passive voice. You should be looking to be more authoritative when you speak. It's the correct way to do it. But most of you are going to try and be formal, and so you're going to get weak passive wording. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's something to improve over the next couple of years before you graduate, and as you become a better engineer, you will naturally start to use more active language. Don't try and be stick up your ass when you write, and you'll naturally also adopt a more active language. Don't sweat it. It's okay. And also remember, this is an AI. Trust it as far as you can throw it, right? And you can't throw an AI very far, is my point. It's suggestions. If you think it's wrong, then it may well be wrong, okay? It's just there to give you suggestions. Reviews. All right, so same thing will happen. You guys will all upload. One tip I did get, by the way, is if you're having trouble with the uploading process and it's taking forever, like more than 5 minutes, try clearing your cache, however you say that. I had some issues with this and I tried that and it actually made a really big difference in how quickly it worked for me. So give that a go. All right, here is what you will be marking your peers on. I need to be a little bit careful in how, yeah, sweet. Sorry if this text is a little bit small. Oh, I can make it bigger, cool. All right, you'll have a couple of, this will work just like last time. You'll have a couple of marking rubrics and a short answer question and a ranking. So your first one is to mark them on compliance. Did they have the title page? Did they have a table of contents? Did they have a list of figures? Did they use 12-point Times New Roman? All the stuff that's in the compliance bit. Here, you are now marking on a yes, it's perfect, or no, it's not perfect. That's it. They have a table of contents or they don't. It's a binary. They used 12-point Times New Roman for their body text. Obviously, this excludes captions and headings and equations and all of that is excluded. And they were perfect or they weren't. That's it. They're binaries, okay? It is anonymous or it isn't. It's a binary. They have the correct file name or they don't. It's a binary. So you do this. I'm hoping that you get through this in pretty rapid pace. That's the first one. The second one is all of the other formatting stuff. So body text is justified, headings were done correctly. This is more or less ripped straight from the brief, but some things have been slightly reworded. So now the heading stuff just says correctly formatted. However the brief says it needed to be formatted, it's formatted like that. And you've got your sort of familiar 4-point ranking system. Perfect, some errors, several errors, mostly bad. And that's just all of the things in there. And the next one is the content one. So abstract, introduction, description of design, evaluation and analysis of design, and conclusions. And then existing contains all the appropriate information. Existing contains, is it some? Most of? I know there's lots of appropriate information. You are now required to leave a minimum of 1 comment on each of these sections. So you must leave a comment on the abstract. You must leave a comment on the introduction. You only have to leave 1, but you are required to leave at least 1. The short answer question is now, how well has the author followed logical design methods when creating their solution? And how well have they critically analyzed their solution? So have they done a good analysis of the problem, or did they just make shit up? Or have they done a really bad job and they don't even know it? They can't even see that fact. So regardless of how well their final prototype performed, you're not assessing whether it worked, you're assessing whether or not they could assess whether it worked. So if it didn't work and they tell you it didn't work and here's why, fantastic. That's exactly what I want to see. If it did work and they can tell you it did work and this is why, fantastic. That's what I want to see. If it didn't work and they can't tell you why, or if it did work and they can't tell you why, that's bad. This is where you hit them for that, okay? So how well could they critique their own design, basically? Short answer of approximately 1 to 200 words here. So that's like a paragraph, all right? It's not War and Peace. You don't have to write a page. You just have to write a paragraph. Yes, I thought your analysis was excellent. I do think you maybe missed this, but these other things were really good. Well done. Whatever. And the last question is the same as before. Fill out the Microsoft form. Now, this Microsoft form has been updated from last time. So, whatever, I can save. It doesn't matter. Piss off. Here is the new Assessment 7 form. I tried to make it collect some information automatically, like your student number and stuff, but it didn't work. It locked you guys out of the system. Microsoft is a little bit, well, the university is a little bit annoying in the way in which they do that. So same as last time, you're going to read 5 reports and you're going to rank them all. Put the best one, the second best one, the third best one, the fourth best one, and the fifth best, or the worst one, in here. All right, just put them in the order from best to worst. Many of you last time had reports that you were like, I don't think this is a real attempt, and I don't want to confuse somebody going, I had 5 reports and they were all pretty good. And this one at the bottom, it's at the bottom, but they were all pretty good, is very different to, I had 4 kind of average reports and 1 absolute garbage report. I don't want that garbage report and that pretty good one that was on the bottom of a really good pack to fall into the same slot. So the idea is if you get something that's garbage, and I mean genuinely garbage, not just they didn't try very hard, they didn't try at all, you can throw it in here, and you get the option to do that up to 3 times, okay? So those 3 questions are identical. It's just basically, if you get really unlucky and you get 3 absolute pieces of shit, you can put them in here. If you don't know whether something was a piece of shit or not, sorry, you get 2 of these. You get 2 of these. If you don't know, you can ask me and I can go and check for you. I believe the following report is not anonymous. Okay, and then you get 2 spots to add something if you think they are not anonymous. If you have 3 reports that weren't anonymous, let me know and I'll update the form. I just hope that's not the case. You don't have to answer any of these questions. If you have 5 decent reports, you won't answer these questions. If you have 4 decent reports and 1 garbage one, then you put the 4 in here. You don't put the garbage one in the 5th best spot. You put it down here instead. Same goes for anonymous. So you enter each of the report, each of the student numbers you were given to review exactly once. All right. Don't put them both in here as, 5th best and not anonymous. It just goes in the not anonymous. Okay. I hope that clarifies a little bit for all of you guys. Sweet. So I'll answer any more questions that are in the chat and then we'll start doing a review. Yeah, that report's really good. By the way, that report that I was just flicking back and forwards is really good. If we have 3 to 4 lines of calculation... Oh, no, we did that already. Didn't you say you don't need a list of equations? Correct. You don't need a list of equations. That particular report we were looking at had them. You don't need them. You do need a list of figures. You do need a list of tables. If you have at least 1 table, you must have a list of tables. If you have at least 1 listing, you must have a list of listings. You do not need a list of equations, but if you put 1 in, that's also totally fine. I may graph the Python code and matplotlib. All right, nice flex. Is it wrong to use these in the report? No, that's totally fine. No. I don't care that they used Google Sheets. I care that their solution was to screenshot them and chuck them in. Don't do that. Just import them as actual figures, and then you go. I don't care how you make them. Sorry if that wasn't clear. I don't care how you make them. Make them however you want. Just don't do this. Don't do anything that looks like this. And I know this is not the purpose of this, but, like this shit, all right? Don't do that. And don't take screenshots. I know that this is a photo, but you still sometimes see screenshots like... It is not uncommon to see screenshots that look like that, where you can still see a border of other stuff that absolutely shouldn't be in the screenshot, or a screenshot that looks like this. That's also really common. Don't do that. Export the thing, okay? And don't do pictures of tables. It's a table. Make it a table. I know we're meant to avoid using personal pronouns, but I have found it word difficult to word certain sentences without saying our team. That's okay. That's okay. When also referring to other teams, any advice? That actually, Harry, I would say is totally fine. In that case, now you could, refer to yourselves as team one, whatever team you are, and then you could say team whatever. But in that case, particularly when you're comparing to others, our team, this team, whatever, versus that team, I would say is completely acceptable. I felt that we did a pretty sick job, mate? Like, that's the shit I want you to avoid, okay? And I really want you to avoid personal pronouns because I don't want you to fall into writing a recount. Just, I woke up today in week 4 and I did this, and then I came in week 5 and I did this, and then in week 6 I did this, because that's almost always leads to bad writing. It's not a recount, it's a report. But yeah, as Samuel points out here, the team is a totally fine thing to do, and Team X, as we spoke about. Should abstract acknowledgements be in the table of contents, and are they in numbered sections? So, this report is just doing some heavy lifting for me right now. I think it's this one. It's one of the ones I have to review. Has done this perfectly. It might not be this one. It is this one. So, they didn't number their table of contents, list of figures, list of tables. Oh, that's a little bit of a typo by you there. Your list of figures should be capitalized. The word figures should be a capital F. Because you've done it in all of the other places, you've always capitalized. So you've capitalized tables, so that's why we capitalize figures. And then, by the way, you update entire table, and see it auto capitalizes it for you. So what you do is basically exactly what this person has done. Arguably, abstract and acknowledgements shouldn't have been section 1 and section 2. You could have just not given them section numbers, and started with section 1 being the introduction. That's probably what I would have done, but I'm splitting hairs here outside of what I really care that you guys can do as first years. So you can make a table of contents where you don't number all of the things, and you can make sure that this doesn't start until 1. Actually, I would be starting this at 1, and I would be starting this at page 1. I would leave Roman numerals here and here, and I would take these out. I would start with the first page of the introduction, because that's the first bit. So move your section break down by 2 pages, whoever the author of this particular thing is, and start introduction on page 1 as section 1. If I could only stress one thing to be covered in this live stream, what do you think would be the most important? Good question. Follow the fucking rules is the first thing that jumps to mind. Like, I've told you what I want you to do, so do that thing. Is one of them. But I think more important than that is probably to acknowledge that the point here is for you to... no, it's probably follow the fucking rules. So, because I want the point of this to be to get you to put your engineering hat on and really think about, did I do a good job of this or not? If I was to do this again, would I do it differently? Should I change my engineering process, and blah, blah, blah. And doing a really good evaluation and justification section is how you get better at this. And this is the big picture learning objective that I want you to take away from here. Just below that is the learning objective, which is learning how to format documents correctly is super duper important. Making sure the layout is predictable and consistent really matters. And I'd love to say when everybody does their marking and their ranking, they mainly let the validity of the justification and that in-depth engineering analysis be the thing that determines who they put at the top of the list and who they put at the bottom. maybe that'll be it, but my money would actually be on people going, I found lots of typos, or I found lots of, incorrectly formatted stuff, and I reckon that's going to influence people's rankings more than anything. So, I don't know. That's my guess at this stage. Can you write in the acknowledgements in first person? Yes, absolutely. Your acknowledgements can 100% be in first person. What is a listing? It's a way of putting pseudocode in. If you're not doing coding, don't worry about it. And if you are doing coding, look at like literally any of the labs that have pseudocode in them. How do we get rid of the vertical lines in the tables? Heaps of different ways you can do it. You just pick a table style that doesn't have it. Um, so is there tables in here? Or you can go and like do some formatting of your tables and get rid of them. There's heaps of options. But like table design here, that he just picked one that doesn't have it. Lots of them don't. Lots of them do have this, where they'll have like one line to separate out their titles, essentially. It's quite common. I actually don't hate this style of table. I quite like it. I'm not necessarily saying for this particular thing. Oh, yeah. Professionally, I quite like these, but yeah, this table format is fine. Or you can get another one and you can hide lines yourself. There's a heap of different ways to do it. In the A6 brief, an introduction to the topic, maximum 12 pages, there is 4 to 5 headings. Would you recommend giving these their own new page, or are they fine to be connected? I would recommend giving them their own new page. But I didn't state that because some of you are going to break them up really quite differently. And for some of you, you might only end up with a tiny little bit in one of them, or you might end up really struggling to fit within the 12-page limit, and you might have like 3 pages of blank. So you don't have to. But if I was only going to have 4 headings, and each of them were to be 4 subsections, and each would be about 3 pages long each, I would work really hard on trying to have them start on a new page, because that's just so much easier for the reader. That report has underlined headings. Is that a no-go? I don't know. Whatever the brief tells you to do. What does the brief tell you to do? Where's the brief? Where's the brief? Do. Oh, that's the title page. Mm-hmm. 12-point bold Times New Roman headings, 14-point italicized subheadings. It doesn't say anything about underlined or not underlined, so I probably wouldn't underline, but it's not forbidden. If we make drawings, are there any requirements such as pencil only or something like that? No. If I only made 1 drop of water, can I still say that it's 1 milliliter of water? No. A drop of water is approximately 1/20th of a milliliter. It's about 20 droplets to a mil. Does the name of the section heading have to be the default description of design? Could it be changed to project solution design and have a subheading like final design? It could be, but be extremely careful with this. Your marker is going through and looking for the marking rubric they have tells them to go and read the bit that says description of design. So if you make a misleading heading, you're just going to get 0. What's up with the built-in headers? Like, say I don't want to use them, do I still need them? No, we covered that. You don't need them. All right, let's do a review. Now, I have one in here that I've got for first. Where is it? First. This is the one I'm going to do first. This is a interesting one, I think. I'm just trying to remember which one this is. Okay. So the one that we've been using as our example is really, really good. This one's not as good, which is going to give us a few more things to talk about. But this is a nice example to talk about because this person's project didn't work very well on test day. I don't think they'll have any qualms in me saying that. So it's a really good way for us to look at how they've done their justification of their engineering design decisions, because they're not sitting there saying, yeah, ours was amazing, when it actually sucked, they do quite a good job of showing us, of talking about the flaws in their design. So I want to show you all that. Plus, there's a bunch of other things in here that aren't great that I get to talk about, like this. What the fuck? This is a screenshot of the title page. I don't know, maybe it's just a placeholder, but like, why? You're making life real hard for yourself. Just go to Discord, go to the A6 channel, go to pin messages, click on the title page link, and it brings you here. Hit download, open it up, and bam, you've got it. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now, many people have actually done that. That was the very first thing they did, and they've used this to then just write their report on the back of this thing that they've downloaded, which is fine. Just make sure that things like the margins are set correctly, which they are. I think I did this deliberately for you, but double check my work in case I've made a mistake with any of that type of stuff. But if you've already got a document, Control A, Control C, and go and fuck that off and plonk it in there. And then you're golden. Takes like 10 seconds. So yeah, follow that procedure. Click the link, go to Dropbox, download it, open it, Control A, Control C, chuck it in. Yeah, I might have messed up this, but yeah, be careful about not using carriage returns to separate stuff out. You have a table of contents, you've got Roman numerals, you've got a numbered list. Excellent, great, I like a lot of that. I'm not sure why abstract isn't lined up with all the others. That's a little bit weird, but okay. You haven't actually put your list of figures in yet, which is fine, but I think you just wrote the word list of figures here, so make sure you insert a list of figures and all that kind of good stuff. If you don't know how to do that, go watch the Word 101 video. I hate this. Dude, page breaks exist. Use them. Page break. Bam. And now you don't have to worry about when you come in here and you put stuff into your list of figures that it moves your next page up and down. So get rid of all your carriage returns and just use page breaks, all right? Page breaks. Page breaks are your friend. Ah, I didn't mean to do that. I actually don't know how I did that, but anyway. Alright, you don't have an abstract yet. That's fine. You should write abstracts last anyway. Piss all of these off. You don't have acknowledgements yet. That's fine. You don't necessarily need them, but yep, that's a fine thing to write towards the end. You do have a section break in here, which is fantastic. I'm guessing this is how you're ending your Roman numerals and you're moving into Arabic, which is good. Introduction, overview of the problem, justification, and the importance. Okay, that's fine. Figure with a caption. No, in line with text. Always in line with text. Okay, never ever anything other than in line with text. All right, and then you just center it. And if you've got justified text, which you don't, and you need to have. Wait, no, you do have justified text. I don't know why that didn't auto-justify. It should have just auto-justified and automatically been in the center. And then don't do this. Don't put your figure captions in... And this might just... This happens sometimes, but if you put your figures in correctly, you should just be able to right-click, insert caption, bang your text in here. And then it puts the thing in for you. I mean, you don't need to repeat figure one. And then it's in there and it's proper, and you just go and change your caption formatting to be correct. Should be black. And then you're good. Obviously, I'm in dark mode, so white is black and black is white, but whatever. But from there, you're golden, all right? So that's what you want to do with your figures, but you had a figure, it was in the middle, it had a caption. All of those things were correct. It's just the process can lead you to things that, if you've seen the meme of like, I press one enter in my Word document and it all blows up. That's because you put your figures and shit in wrong. Don't use any text wrapping other than inline with text ever, and you basically will never have that problem. But good start. All right. Some stuff I don't love as much about this. There is a need for civil engineers, ENGG1500 students. Like, don't do this shit. Don't ever get a title of something wrong. It's generally seen as very insulting. Either don't use a title, don't write ENGG1500, or write it fucking correctly. The same thing goes with like when you address somebody. If you don't address Dylan as Mr. Cuss Kelly, because my title isn't fucking Mr. If you're going to do that, I'm Dr. Cuss Kelly. Or I'm Dylan, and I give zero shits either way. But if you're gonna be formal, you gotta be right, okay? So, that's fine, just be right. There is a need for civil engineers to design and construct a water tower. This project will aim to provide the client with high water pressure water storage that will increase to quality of life, ensuring they have a reliable water source with proper water flow as to reach the client's water faucets. So, as I say to everybody, copy and paste your text into something that will read it for you, because I'd say you just wrote this sentence twice, and so one time you had providing, and then one time you're like, I can beef my language up and put ensuring in here because it sounds stronger or whatever, and you just fucked it up. That will increase your quality of life. Yeah, I'd say that's the same thing that happens here. I think this sentence probably got rewritten 3 or 4 times, which happens a lot with your first paragraph. Yeah. Check that your first couple of paragraphs are correct. If you don't want to put your entire document through a read this text thing for me, fine, don't. But your first paragraph is going to be read with the most amount of like critical hat on by your marker, right? They're going to get lazy as they get through here and they're going to start skim reading. We all know that. But the first paragraph is going to be read in depth. There's another small problem that I have with this. High pressure water. This project does not produce high water pressure at all. It produces the absolute bare minimum of water pressure. So you get high water pressure out of pumps, or you get it out of water tanks they build on top of hills that are hundreds of meters above where you're using them. You're building something that's less than 2 meters above where you're using it. It's not even in the realm of high. Also, we're never connecting this to a faucet because this is absolutely not drinking water. So, yeah, couple of things to be improved there. Similar thing here, the project will greatly benefit rural areas combating the effects of drought on farmers, as a cheap way to store a small amount of water could provide relief in drought through, for instance, providing water for household pets. Okay, providing water for household pets probably isn't saving a farmer in a drought. So you were given the project brief around helping renters, very specifically, because that's the target market I wanted you to hit. You're not helping farmers in drought. You're not. You're just not storing enough water for that to matter. So, yeah, this is probably on the point of like, stay in your lane as much as you can. Cool. So there's a few things in here that are probably not technically correct and probably could work on improving, but this project provides a solution for newer build. I mean, it doesn't. Again, newer buildings are required to have them, and they're not putting in the ones that you designed. They put in completely different systems. It's not perfect there, but yeah, this type of factors such as safety, cost, ease of setup, durability are necessary to consider throughout the project to ensure that the client is satisfied with the product. Cool. Final product can be easily disassembled. Minimum risk to the client or team members by reducing the weight and ensuring the teams build the water tower using proper engineering methods. Okay. The client provides buckets to hold the water, and our sellers have packaged the product, selling it in numerous hardware stores. The design will also be made available online for others to use. Did you do that? Did you make your designs available? Like, do you have a way that they can be made available? Um, did you hold 200 kilos of water on test day? This might be worth revisiting to make sure that the introduction that you are providing is actually lined up with the goal at the end of the day. Because I don't know how much of this is actually perfectly aligned with what you did. So this is one of those areas where what you wrote in assessment 2 might need some rework before you use it again in your assessment 6. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. A lot of this also very much bled into a description of a client and a scoping statement. And that's not necessarily a problem. That was actually something I was trying to look to complement here. And I don't think your execution was great. But it is okay to introduce some of the constraints and limitations and describe what you somewhat envision a solution to be able to do. You don't necessarily want to describe things like it'll have 4 legs and it'll be made out of this, but conceptually what's it got to be able to do is a good thing. You go through who your client is, who your target market is. Again, I think some of this could look at being addressed again, but these are the right sections to have. Again, use the page breaks. You have a scope. Your scope has got a whole heap of numbers in it, which I really, really like. Tells us how big it needs to be. Footprint limited to... No. 1200 millimeters. Now, insert symbol and get yourself a multiplication symbol. Yeah. This is not the same as 1200 millimeters squared. They mean two very, very different things. Again, put this symbol in instead of just using an X, okay? So don't do that. Do this. Oh, I'm missing a space. That's fine. I can do that myself. Do that, all right? Good, good, good. Good. It would be nice, and maybe this is going to appear somewhere else, but it'd be nice for you to actually state what these loads are. So you do a really good job here of stating all of these other numbers. I think I'd prefer you've been using abbreviations for all of your other units. You shouldn't write liters out in full. You should abbreviate liters in that case. Yeah, it'd be nice here if you'd actually put some numbers to this. You haven't used... you've used numbers everywhere else, but you haven't actually told me what the lateral load is going to be. And you knew that, right? It had been prescribed. All right, and then this is what the person wanted me to look at was their assumptions and models. And I haven't done a great job of this. They've done a pretty great job of all this background information. I think they'd benefit from going and rewatching. Yeah, so I think they'd benefit from going and rewatching the assumptions and models lecture. Whereas where all of the fact that a column is a tall member laid vertically, that's this is a model, right? This is how we model something as a column. This is how we model something as a beam. These are models. There's not a law of nature that says this thing is a column. It's just a model that we decide to apply. This, pinned versus fixed joints. These are ways of modeling joints, and they're based on a bunch of assumptions. The assumption of a pin joint is that it allows free rotation, and the assumption of... Wait, what? These are backwards to begin with. A pinned joint is one that allows rotation, and a fixed joint is one that doesn't. So that's the model that we use. And we assume when we put a single pin through that it allows something to rotate freely. Now, in reality, if you put a bolt through and you tighten that nut up, it puts some friction against that. So that's an assumption that's not particularly good. In that case, if you tighten the nuts up on the bolts, it's still more pinned than it is fixed, but it's somewhere in the middle. So this is your assumptions and models, and you should now be able to go back and look at all of these things that you wrote about in your assessment too that you probably didn't understand very well, and be like, okay, well, when we built our tower, we only put one bolt through, and we saw rotation at these points. We tried cranking the thing up as much as humanly possible, and we ended up somewhere between pinned and fixed in that case. And these are the things you can talk about, right? We failed because we thought we'd fix the joint by cranking it up really tightly, but we hadn't in reality. Um, okay. So where you've put this break, where you've come in and said, and load calculations for dead loads absolutely could belong in here. I would probably put them after a bunch of this stuff, but yes, putting in some calculations would, based on all of these assumptions and the way that you've modeled stuff, whether you're talking about these being doing a compressive load scenario that ignores buckling, that's a really big assumption that you're making in that case, right? So you have a model for buckling, you have a model for compressive load, you have a model for something in bending, which I don't know if you've actually got those in here or not. Do you have them? Axial, bending. Do you talk about buckling? You talk about joints. This is good. It might be a little excessive. You don't talk about buckling. Um, you probably would benefit from maybe looking at the effects of bending loads, because my guess is that's what actually failed your structure in the end. But coming through and re-looking at these types of things and discussing them a little bit more is basically the assumptions and models section. I don't know what this figure's doing for you, man. Like, cool. It's a big Strand 7 logo. The fuck cares? Like, yes, I do get the concept of introducing Strand as a thing to people, because most people won't have any idea what it's doing. But I think if you were going to put a picture in to represent what Strand is and what it does, I think a photo of like a real bridge and then a Strand model of that same bridge right next to each other would be a way more useful thing. Or your final tower and the Strand model of your final tower, to show people illustratively what this thing actually does to help you and why it exists. Um, yes, you have a whole bunch of things in here that are technically true. The Strand 7 doesn't account for potential loosening of joints or instability due to improper assembly. These things are true. These models assume the average strength on the material with no imperfections. This is not true, for example, with wood with knots in it, would be weaker than at the point of the knot. We would be weaker at the point of the knot. Cool. This is all true, and yes, these are good assumptions to be discussing. But this should all come after discussions of how you actually work out whether something's going to break or not, right? Oh, buckling. You do talk about buckling. You just didn't have an image for it. That's fine. I mean, you should probably have an image for it, but that's okay. Where is it? Somewhere down here. Yeah, you're going to talk to me about factor of safety. I think following this is the appropriate time to then come in and say, yeah, but we've got knots in our timber or imperfect joints, and all of these things affect our actual factor of safety. Cool. So, yeah, I know that this was somewhat specific to the civil, but I think many projects would benefit from this discussion of the assumptions and the models that we used. What was your understanding of the science behind your project, and then did it actually turn out that way? And a whole bunch of this stuff is stuff you're going to be able to reflect on when you come in and you look at your justifications. You're talking about joints in here. You're talking about joints here as well, telescopic joints. You can then talk about those, you can do those comparisons to, were they good models of these types of things? Your pagination, so pagination is what we've been talking about quite a bit in this, is this stuff. It's your description of design just appearing fucking randomly here. Your pagination is atrocious, mainly because you're not using your page breaks, but that's okay. When you are drafting, stressing about pagination is the wrong thing to do. As much as I've been sitting here going like, page break, man, what are you doing? Do this instead. It doesn't actually matter whilst you're still in the drafting stage. It's something to worry about only once you get to a proofreading stage. So if you can write faster and better without having your brain have to worry about shit like pagination, then don't worry about it. Just move on. Just remember to fix it up at the end. Okay, what I will also point out about this particular person, I have given this a skim read before I got here. Oh, again, yeah, like this stuff you absolutely need to fix up, right? This is the huge danger of having done this text wrapping in the way that you have. What you should do here, actually, I have a very good example for this back in our other report. Hilariously, this person learned how to make multi-part figures in between. I know I'm flipping between reports here, but this author learned how to make multi-part figures after their Part A submission and before their Part B submission. You want to know how I know this? Because this is, sorry, after their Assessment 2 and before their Assessment 6. Because this is something they've written for Assessment 6. Beautiful multi-part figure. Beautiful multi-part figure. Beautiful multi-part figure. Let's go back up. Random bullshit. Figure 3, figure 4, sitting next to each other, completely disconnected, text wrapped in a crazy way. So this person needs to go back and they need to fix all of these up, is one of the things they need to do. You see they're all over the place, right? So wherever you've done this, go make a nice multi-part figure as this author learnt to do, and then put them in like that, okay? That's the correct thing to do. Oh. Cool. Now, what I wanted to get to, let's go down. Oh, actually, there was something else I wanted to look at here. Okay, this person gives us an engineering method that is not the one that we realistically, that I gave you. And so they're in really dangerous territory right now because they didn't use the method I gave them in the lecture. They bastardized a method out of the tutorials, and then their solution didn't work. So this puts them on eggshells at the start. But what's going to work out really nicely for them in their favor. Identify the problem, gather information. Like this is fine. This is not bad. Brainstorm ideas, select solutions, create a prototype or model, test and evaluate, optimize the design. So they go around in this loop like this. When we get down to them actually talking about their process, this is pretty much exactly what they do. Okay, I don't really understand why this information is where it is. I think this should go into the background section because this isn't you. This should pretty much all be in. It's hard to tell, right? Because some of this should be background information, and then some of it is you doing prototypes. But what's really nice here is this. Then they take us through the process. Prototype 1. This is what it was. This was what it was good at. This is what it was bad at. New prototype. It's good at more things. It's bad at other things. But that's their new prototype. So they are iterating through. And then there's the one that they actually built to bring out and test on test day. Or is this 3? It would be nice. I don't know if they ever got the photo in the end of what they presented on test day, because it wasn't quite that. Okay. You probably want to do some zooming and some cropping here. Picture format, crop. Let's bring that in. I don't know how many pixels we've got here. We might lose them pretty quickly, but let's bring that in. And now let's make this bigger. And let's fix our text wrapping. Yeah, okay. You don't have a whole world of pixels here, so this isn't ideal, but the civils are not allowed to get too close to their tower on when it's being tested. So what you can pick up here is a little bit of cross bracing that wasn't on the previous one. Yeah, that went down there. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna delete this for now because it's become disjointed. Okay, so they do follow this process through quite well, and they do a very good job of very honestly looking at each of their prototypes as they went through and assessing what's good about them and what's bad. A telescopic joint was used to connect three sections of steel together to make each leg. This was costly as the steel was needed on the inside of the structure to hold it together, and the top of the structure was made from the same steel tubing arranged in a square and held together with bolts. Okay, like it's a description, it has some decent analysis. This prototype taught the group that we should change the main material for wood to reduce embodied energy and cost. More cross bracing would also be needed to reduce swaying. Sweet. So they got the learning, and then they apply that learning, and then they make their next iteration. And then they go through and they basically evaluate that particular thing. Prototype revealed significant flaws in our design. As can be seen, the leg joints fail due to the load, make some improvements, blah, blah, blah. And they're very honest here. This failure caused a lack of time as testing was in a week. This meant a new structure with improvements would need to be built within a week. So this is good. It's acknowledging what the failure was, but also going, and time was a factor here for us as well. So it's a very good, very honest analysis of this. Cool. This is all fine. Your units have gotten a little out, but that's okay. Yep. Decent analysis. Now, weighted performance criteria. This is not a weighted performance criteria. You don't weight your criteria. So this is a bit of a problem for you. You rank how well your design does on it, but you don't weight how important it was to you. So embodied energy, you scored an 8 out of 10. But does it matter? Or is this for you, this is how important it is? Where are you scoring your structure? You need both, right? You need to tell me both how important you think this is, and then how well does your design do on that criteria. For example, I don't think you do this again. I just want to check. No, you don't. So for example, you got an 8 out of 10 on embodied energy. As the structure is made out mainly from untreated pine, the embodied energy is low. So it is low. I I agree. How important is embodied energy to you? Is it as important to you as size? Is it as important to you as aesthetics, for example? Um, because you can have something that you tank. Maybe you tank ease of assembly, but you want to make the argument that it's not as important as its strength and its sturdiness. Look, we were happy to say, yes, this takes 2 hours to put together, but it's built like a brick shit house and it will never fall down. So we're going to win on this criteria and lose on that criteria. And that's because we think this criteria is more important. That's what this is missing, right? It needs some weighting in these criteria, as well as a score of how well it did. I like that each one of these has an explanation behind it. That's a good thing. I don't necessarily agree with all of the things that this person has said, but the fact that it has an explanation that's there is the thing that's most important to me. Be careful with your units, man. You were good with them before, and then you've lost it. So I would just do a check of that at the very end to make sure. this is something you've got to improve. You've got to get a better figure than that if you can. If at all humanly possible, get a better figure than that. Yep, this is fine. This is fine. This is good. This person got asked a difficult question. I poked them with a very hard question on test day, and they didn't have an answer to it. It turns out that they were probably right, and they've gone and they've done the investigation and they've got the reference to back themselves up, which is really nice to see. You can do this, but this is good. This is a good way of doing some justification, is getting some evidence to go with it. I think it was, I'm trying to remember the part that I read that I really liked about their very honest analysis. I'm just going to read the rest of this very quickly. So, for the phono prototype, the metal bracing was replaced with 2 wooden belts around each face. This reduced the cost greatly. Clothesline was also used as cheap tension bracing. This could have been a valid decision, as prior assembly of the tower showed that the bracing made it stable. Unfortunately, the 1 hour construction phase on test day, the clothesline bracing was improperly put on, meaning it did not take any load. This resulted in the failure of the water tower, as it would wobble without the bracing, causing it to tip over once the force was applied. Good. This is a very nice, honest way of saying it didn't work very well. And we know why. This is what we tried to do. This is why it didn't work, and this is the results that it brought out. This is excellent. Due to the breaking of our second prototype, the team had to create a new tower from scratch within a week. This led to unpreparedness for test day, which does not reflect the possibility of the design. Cool. During testing, the bracing was not engaged properly. To ensure that the design can function as intended, the team would figure out a way to simplify the assembly of the structure. This would allow for the bracing to function properly, preventing the design from shifting. Simplifying the assembly process could involve the in-depth labeling of components. Yep. Making each joint identical so that they can be interchangeable. Excellent. This would reduce the time of assembly and reduce the chance of mistakes during assembly. Good. I really like this as like a future work section. The things that they're saying they want to improve, they have a very specific examples of. They want to simplify the assembly process. Sure, fucking everybody wants to simplify their assembly process. Don't just say I want to simplify. Making each joint identical so that it could be interchangeable would be really, really helpful. Labeling of components would be really helpful. Those very concrete next steps are the important ones to put in here. This being the reason for failure on test day would be retaken with the proper design assembled from the results, would give us either a new point of failure to work on or success for mass production can begin. Okay, and this is a decent kind of final point to be saying at the end as well. They're not saying buy our design. You shouldn't buy the design as it is. They know that, I know that, they are stating that fact. But being able to say, if we did this, then maybe we could get to that point. This is good. This is well thought through. The only thing I don't like is I'm pretty sure from memory, and I might be very, very wrong, that they got a bit of weight on the tower before it collapsed. And I don't think they're talking about that testing at all. So for the civils, they can hold either 50 litres or 200 litres. And I know it didn't hold the 200 very well. But I thought it maybe held the 50. Maybe it didn't. But either way, that should be explicitly discussed. Talking about there was 2 different testing situations. Did it survive either should be explicitly addressed. I know it didn't perform exactly as you wanted it to, and your evaluation is good, but a little bit more results. Not a lot, and maybe it is in there and I missed it. I understand that I'm reading this very quickly. But yeah, a little bit more about how you actually went on test day would be really, really nice in here. Did you get a picture of it after it failed? Did you get pictures of it whilst it was failing? You just go from here to words. You should really put some actual results in about how it went on test day. I know that you've got some of it, but you should really put some more in. Yeah. Okay. But overall, you've got a fair bit to work on with, I think, an assessment A2 that needs a bit of polishing, and a bit of restructuring how you've done some stuff in the middle, and a fair bit of looking at how you've done some of your formatting. But it's not terrible, and you should be good from there. Cool. All right. Whew. Changing back into Q&A mode. So, I am aware I've been ignoring the chat. That was somewhat deliberate. I'll read the chat now. If you've got random questions, let me know. What's up with the built-in headers? Like, I don't... Oh, we did that already, right? If an image is wrapped to inline with text, how do you place it in the center of the page? You just center it. The position controls are not grayed out unless you've done something really weird. So let's just go back to where's the one where they're all weirdly text wrapped? Where is it? Oh, did I just close it? All right, whatever. Yeah, you just put it in line with text, and then you just come up to here and you just do the appropriate one. So center and I think even justified will actually leave it. No, justified does left align it. That's right. Yeah, so just center it like that. Super easy. Instead of selecting the image, you need to select the line of text that the image is in line with. No, you select the image. Well, I mean, you absolutely can. The other thing that you might not have done, I know what this could be. You've hit enter at the end of your text, right? You may have noticed that I kept doing that. Hold on, let me see if I can get this back. What was it? First. This might be the problem. First. Where's just one image? Is that text wrapped correctly? No, it's not. So when you go inline with text, I mean, I still have the center no matter what, but you've just got to sometimes make sure that, see here where it's put this text next to it, you've just got an enter. You've got a carriage return in there, and then your life should get heaps better. Hopefully that fixes it. And then, yes, you can, as Chloe says, having the cues on, they're called cues, that button just there does make your life quite a lot easier. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Is it alright if we were to sort of combine the summary of content and assumptions? Yeah, absolutely. That's why the brief is phrased the way that it is. Where's the brief? Over there. Yeah. That's why. Yeah, after reading this section, the reader needs to be up to date with the state of the art. Concepts should include this, but are not limited to this. Present this information the easiest way for the audience to understand it, based on your specific project. A potential set of sections could be blah, 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 but you need to decide on what's best for your project. Okay? I never said you have to hold on to these, and it's also why this is maximum 12 pages total, split up as you see fit, to give you that flexibility, right? Not all projects are the same, not all should follow, and not all authors are the same, right? Just because you see it easy to write one way, others might not. Is there a max size for images? They are not allowed to go into the margins, okay? So as long as they don't go into the margins, you're fine. Do you need to give yourself a mark in performance criteria? Yeah, man. Like in the evaluation, that's how I would evaluate myself. So when it comes to the evaluation, I would get my design that I've just described, and I would just throw it at my performance criteria. I'd be like, here's performance criteria, here's how it went, here's why it did that. I would basically be basing half my report around my performance criteria. It held the 50, but not the 50 in the win load. Chuck that in, man. chuck that in. That's a result. 50 kilos is non-negligible. And it should be in there. And then specifically talk about it didn't hold the wind load, which you do. I know somewhere in here you do talk about like the bracing was the thing and all that type of stuff. But just make that really clear. Here's it holding the 50. I don't know if you got a photo of it holding the 50. That'd be great to put in. And then yeah, it failing under the wind load would be good. Am I allowed to have screenshots of code? No. No, 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 no. Screenshots of code is absolutely forbidden. That is, as a reader, just the worst thing on earth to see. Um, so don't do that. If you want to try and communicate something, use your pseudocode there, or almost always better off to use a UML diagram there. Okay. No one wants to read your code. And if they did, the correct way to give them the code isn't to put it into a report anyway. And I know you're just not allowed to do it here, but big picture learning for all of you, it's to link them to the Git that has your code on it is the correct way to do it, so that they can actually access it and access the most up-to-date version of it and all those types of things. Printing out a piece of paper with code written on it is fine in a teaching scenario, but it's not how you want to actually professionally share your code. With formatting, what are the key things we should have before we start writing, and what can we fix at the end? Really depends on who you are as a person. The key things you must have before you start is nothing. You can just brain dump at the default version of Word, and it's actually how I'm most successful with my writing, is I just open up a Word document and I start writing. And I do no formatting whatsoever at the start. And I'll get to a point where I'm having a day where I know I need to do some work, and it's just not coming. I've just got writer's block. I can't get any flow and I can't get any whatever. I know. I'm going to use this time to go through and do all my formatting stuff. And I'll go and I'll reformat then. Or I'll reformat at the end of like a 12-hour day or something where I know I need to keep making progress, but my brain is mush. I'll get a beer or several, and I'll just go through my report and reformat it at that stage. Because formatting is something you don't want to rush. You want to be slow about it. So when I'm going to be slow anyway, that's when I do my formatting. Other people are not like me, though. There are some people who absolutely must format everything correctly, or their brain can't proceed. It gets held back, and they keep worrying about it. My old supervisor was like that. He could not move on. Could not move on from this to anything else if it wasn't formatted correctly. So I just sit there and wait whilst he would format stuff. It was fun. Depends on who you are. How many percent of the grade is the report worth? It looks like the peer review is worth 70, and the review from your reviewers is worth 20. Does that mean the report is only 10? No. The report is a completely separate assessment. So the report is one assessment, and then the peer review is a different assessment. Completely separate. Yeah. Would you recommend drawings or assemblies of the project? Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend putting in some drawings. Put in a Creo model. Manufacturing drawings. I'm on the wrong one. Where's my favorite example? I do want to get to this one in a second because they did specifically ask me to read their abstract and conclusion, and I probably owe it to them considering how much I've used their report. Does this person give me drawings? No, they give me pictures. I thought they gave me drawings as well. Um, yeah. Yeah, no, look, drawings are absolutely helpful. Just consider that a set of orthographic projections, that means that's front, top, and side, for those of you who aren't doing Mech 1110. That's not always the easiest thing for somebody to visualize, so adding in an isometric is probably really, really helpful as well. All right, I do want to go to this one that I've been using a lot and read their abstract. And I'd like you all to have a decent look at this as well. This is not perfect, but it's not bad. So, where's their abstract? All right. Team 1 was given the task of designing an aerial delivery system capable of delivering a payload to the designated landing area unreachable by SES workers on land due to a natural disaster such as a flood. The team was given a budget for the duration of semester one to research, design, and develop a product which will be presented and demonstrated to the client. The design must fit in the supplied storage box, be assembled and launched in 15 minutes, and safely deliver the payload into the landing area using the supplied launcher. The client also requires a system which is adaptable, lightweight, safe, and easy to extract the payload from. Throughout the design development, the team applied many models and assumptions to their design. The team assumed the SES work in pairs and have reasonable fitness and ability to read and follow instructions. They also assumed that the demonstration would occur in clear conditions without excessive wind and utilize mathematical models and theories of lift, drag, and weight throughout the design process. The team prioritized the development of a system which has a quick and easy assembly, combined with easy payload placement and removal to ensure an ergonomic system. They also prioritized delivering the payload close to or inside the target and a hook which was easily attachable and detachable to promote optimal flight. The team resultantly made various decisions throughout the design process guided by the results of their research, testing, and prototyping, particularly regarding the wing and tail material, hook design, glider length, and assembly process. These decisions accumulated in the development of the Stanley, which was presented to the client. The team developed a balsa wood core flute glider, which breaks down into 3 main components to fit in the storage box. The system can be constructed and launched by 2 people in less than 3 minutes, and on demonstration day showcased its ability to deliver payloads to the landing area 20 meters away, 50% of the time, or within 3 meters of the landing area 75% of the time. The payload is stored in the fuselage, allowing easy payload placement and extraction, while the system only weighs 165 grams, therefore minimizing fatigue. A single Stanley can be produced within budget in 4 hours and can be launched 24 hours after completion. The system provided an effective solution to the problem despite requiring to be further developed to improve its landing accuracy, and the team is confident in their recommendations to pursue this design as it has potential to provide a well-rounded solution to the problem. Cool. Overall, pretty good. If I was to read that and that alone, I would have a reasonable understanding of your solution. It does have some superfluous information in it, though. So, there's some stuff I don't love about this. Overall, it's pretty good, but some stuff I don't love. This is a little bit of a recount, and I don't want to see a recount. So Team 1 was given the task of designing an aerial delivery system. Team 1 designed an aerial delivery system capable of delivering a payload to a designated landing area unreachable by SES workers on land due to natural disasters such as a flood. Better. You want to use less words here, and you want to be more explicit. The team was given a budget and the duration of semester 1 to research, design, and develop a product which will be presented and demonstrated to the client. I think this sentence is useless. I don't think it matters. Or it needs to be rephrased the other way, similar to what we did here. Within 1 semester, the team researched, designed, and developed a product that was demonstrated to the client. So what I'm actually doing here is changing you from passive to active voice. That's what we're trying to do. Often the way you do this is you flip your sentences around. And you will probably have to do a little bit of wording to make sure your flow works here. But this whole thing up here is done badly. and then is redone again down here brilliantly. So the system must fit in the supplied storage box, be assembled and launched in 15 minutes, and safely deliver the payload. Yeah, like that. Don't don't tell me that. Tell me this. Where is it? The system can be constructed, and what they're talking about here. So I don't love can be constructed, but they're actually saying a brand new system can be constructed and launched by 2 people in less than 3 minutes. And I would just say demonstrated on demo day, showcase its ability. Yeah, that's okay. To deliver the payload to the landing area here. This is good. This is the better sentence, right? So that is what you want to bring up here. You also do a really good job in here somewhere about talking. Yeah, the team developed a balsa wood core flute glider which breaks down into 3 main components to fit in the storage box. The system can be constructed and launched by 2 people. Basically, all of this should come up and replace the stuff that's here. You don't need to say it twice. You don't need to say, we were asked to do this and then we did this. Just basically say, we did this. You won't always be able to do that, but what you've got down here is really nice. Put it up here. I would just wipe a whole bunch of this. I would also probably wipe this. What happens if I just take all of that out? Just going to park that for a second. Team 1 designed an aerial delivery system capable of delivering a payload, blah, blah, blah. Within 1 semester, the team researched, that's just 2 spaces, designed, developed a product that was demonstrated to the client. The team prioritized the development of a system which is quick and easy to assemble, combined with easy payload placement and removal to ensure ergonomic system. They also prioritized delivering the payload close to or inside the target area, optimal flight. The team resultantly made various design decisions, guided by these things. That's maybe a little long, but it's fine. These decisions accumulated into the development of the Stanley, which was presented to the client. The team developed blah, blah. You're probably saying the team did blah, blah, blah more often than you need to. This happens because when you're writing, it takes you it probably took you half an hour to write this, but I read the whole thing in a minute and a half. So you can often just, if you feel you're using the words too often, just straight up delete them. These decisions accumulated in the development of the Stanley, which was presented to the client. A balsa wood and core flute glider which breaks down into 3 main components to fit in the storage box. There's no need to say the words the team again here. You can often just straight up hit delete on them. Sometimes you have to fang jangle your sentence a little bit. But yeah, the system can be constructed and launched by 2 people in less than 3 minutes. And on demonstration day, showcase its ability to deliver payloads. Yep, that's all good. The payload is stored in the fuselage for easy placement and extraction, while the system only weighs 165 grams, therefore minimizing fatigue. I don't think you need that. I don't hate it. I'm unsure. A single Stanley can be produced within budget. I don't mind within budget here, but I'd like a number. I think a number would be nicer here. In 4 hours and can be launched 24 hours after its completion. The system provided an effective solution, blah, 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 blah. Good. Good. It was very good. I liked this a lot. I think you were just using a few more words than you needed to. I think if you come through and you cut your words down, this becomes punchier and harder hitting. And again, if you go on with an active voice, not we were asked to do blah 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 is very passive. We did this. We kicked ass, or we failed hard. That's fine, but come into this with an active voice, and you should do really well from here. Yes, it's easy to write one of these when you have a really strong project, as this one ended up being. But regardless, come into it with an active voice. We did these things. They sucked. That's okay. All right. Um, yeah, this is good. There is value in doing some of this, stating the problem statement. I'm not saying you should completely gut that out, but yeah, more of this basically. Okay. Um, Given it is 2 minutes until we're supposed to be finished, Q&A. Does anybody have any final questions for me? Would you Would you like to ask me anything else? Is there anything else that is sitting in the A6 questions that you want to ask me? Because I'm not going back to that. I'm basically going to draw a line and say, I assume all of this was answered in the live stream, and I'm moving on. So if you want me to address anything that's in there, ask now or forever hold your peace, okay? Am I able to say what has been done for the project by each week, or does that fall too much in becoming a recount? That almost always leads to bad writing. So if you have a very good reason of going week by week, this is when we did things, then maybe, but that's almost always a terrible idea. Now, that's very, very different to, let's go back to this first one that we looked at. Now, remember, they went through 3 prototypes. Prototype 1, what they learnt from it, what they did next, which was prototype 2, what they learnt from it, what they did next, which was their model for testing. Um, and that, while still chronological, was fine because there was a very good reason for doing it that way. It made sense. And by the way, it didn't necessarily take 1 week to do this and then 1 week to do this. And they never tried to imply that fact. Those two things could have happened one day after the other, or it could have been 3 weeks in between them. And it actually was. This prototype, I think they had the first week back after the break, so this was in week 8. And then I think it took them 3 weeks to get to here. And then it was 1 week to get to here. So it reads like that, but the reality is the time jumps were like nothing, and then huge time jump, and then tiny little time jump. So, um, yeah, you can do it chronologically. It's fine. This person did, and they did a great job of it. But just going, we did this in week 1, we did this in week 2. It's not what you've been asked for in the brief, right? The brief has not asked you to do that. It's asked you to describe your design, and then it's asked you to evaluate that. It very, very deliberately has not asked you for a method section or anything like that. So, be careful. How long does the new team info day go for? Don't know. Oh yeah, I can jump to that. It was my next slide. For those of you who want to come and join new teams, by the way, info day on Tuesday next week, starting at 2 p.m. Our new teams, by the way, are amazing, and everybody should do new teams because they're the greatest thing on the face of the earth. Do I have any new team stuff open? For those of you who don't know, and I know most of you know because you saw this last week, but new teams. We build race cars, rocket ships, autonomous boats, autonomous cars now, and we're starting up new brewing for the first time ever. And you get to do all of this. This is all student-driven stuff. These are undergraduate students. Build, test, design. I think it's in here is build, test, design, and okay, in their case, single-seat electric race cars. But whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it as part of new teams, and they're amazing. So you should come and do new teams if you want to do more learning actual cool, relevant, industry-based skills and doing something meaningful with your engineering degree. Uh, And if you'd like to be part of any of that, if you filled out the expression of interest form, you should already have this email from me. But if you haven't, info session 2 o'clock Tuesday, starting at the TA building. I think we're going to go up to a lecture theatre almost immediately after that. How long is it going to take? I think about an hour, but it's going to be based on how many people there are, how many questions there are, and how much of a TA tour we do. So I'm still umming and ahhing as to whether we do the tour first or not. I think if a lot of people have already seen the inside of the building, I'll do the tour last, and then if you've had the tour already, you can leave. So I'm hoping 2 to 3, but probably more likely 2 to 4, but I'm not sure. For desal, do we use demo day results for some calculations, prior testing results, or an average of the two? Demo day results in all cases, basically. Demo day is what matters. It's almost irrelevant to say we did better in week 11 than we did in week 12. Well, week 12 was demo week. Unless you have a really good reason for not using your week 12 stuff, that's the stuff that matters. And many of you will have a really good reason for not using your week 12 stuff, but that's the important one. But you might want to do something like, say, in the absolute best possible situation, it was plausible to do blah, blah, blah. But yeah, generally, it's week 12 that matters. When discussing an overall time constraint for the project, would we say a semester, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks? Yeah, good call. Um, it depends where you're saying it. You could um, you could kind of argue any of those. I would probably say saying 8 weeks is the most accurate thing to say there. But you could very much say 12-week project would also be totally fine. Is new bot similar to new teams or completely different? It's it's more different than probably the name implies, as in new bots don't specifically come under the new teams banner yet. They might be at some stage. We might be doing a merger there, not anytime soon, but maybe in a year or so we'll look. We've had some of those conversations already. New teams is starting up new brewing right now, and that's where my focus is going to be. And once they're up and running, next on my list is new bots to go and talk to them. So possibly in the future, but new bots is still a student driven undergraduate experience where you build and test kick-ass awesome stuff. So all of that, absolutely. Administratively, we're currently two different entities, but maybe not for long. Do we fill out the new teams form if we are thinking of joining in second year? Um, the form is currently dead anyway. We killed it on Monday of this week. Because we weren't going to take any more people anyway. But it doesn't matter. People are still free to come to the info session, and yeah, I think at this stage we're at the point where the info session is going to be large no matter what. So having an extra 20 people there is totally fine. So if you're even new teams curious, whether you know you're doing it, not doing it this year, but you think you might do it next year, come along. It's a no. This is not a timeshare. I'm not going to try and scam you into signing up for something. It's a guilt-free. Come along, see some stuff, talk to us, and then you can know that information for the following year if you like. Okay, cool. I think we're good. I'm at the bottom of chat. I think I'm good. I think I get to end ENGG1500 now. Cool. I know there's not very many of you left, but thank you. Thank you very much. I said this a lot at the start, and I sort of stopped saying it, but like, thank you guys for all coming and being involved in the streams. It really matters. Obviously, me talking to my monitor for 2 hours every week, um, doesn't make for the most enjoyable experience, but being able to interact with you is what it's about, right? And working fucking 80 hours a week could be a very difficult job, but when you do it with students who genuinely care and they want to be good at what they do, it makes getting up every day super fucking easy. So it's been fantastic, and it's been fantastic because of all of you. So to those who are here live, thank you very much. To those who maybe watch this recording, and even to those of you who never hear me say this, it doesn't matter. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, for being awesome, because that makes my job really easy. I can't imagine how difficult this would be to do with a bunch of students who didn't want to be here. It would be fucking miserable. So, thank you all. You've been amazing. See you guys.